What would happen if the sun disappeared for 24 hours? Imagine you wake up tomorrow morning. You look outside your window. And something is terribly wrong. The sky is completely dark. You wait for the sunrise. Nothing happens. You check your phone. It says 7 o'clock in the morning. But outside, it looks like midnight. Then you look up at the sky and realize something impossible. The sun is gone. Not covered by clouds. Not hidden by an eclipse. Gone. And here is the scary part. You would not even know that the sun disappeared right away. For about 8 minutes, everything on Earth would look completely normal. Because sunlight needs about 8 minutes and 20 seconds to travel from the sun to Earth. So if the sun suddenly vanished, we would still see its light for a few minutes. But when those minutes ended, the sky would go dark. And that would only be the beginning. Because the sun does much more than give us light. It gives Earth heat. It powers plants. It controls much of our weather. And its gravity keeps Earth moving around it. So what would happen if the sun disappeared? Let's find out. The first thing you would notice is the darkness. Imagine standing outside in the middle of the day. You expect to see a bright blue sky. Instead, you would see something that looks like night. The stars would suddenly become visible. The moon would also become strange. If the moon happened to be in the sky, it would not shine by itself. The moon only looks bright because it reflects sunlight. So without the sun, the moon would become almost completely dark too. Cities would quickly turn on their lights. People would run outside. Others would stay inside, confused and frightened. Some might think it was a massive solar eclipse. But an eclipse ends after a short time. This would not. The darkness would continue. And then scientists would notice something even stranger. Earth would no longer be orbiting the sun. You see, the sun is not just a giant light bulb in space. It is an enormous ball of matter with enormous gravity. Its gravity keeps Earth traveling around it. If the sun suddenly disappeared, its gravity would disappear too. Earth would no longer follow its normal orbit. Instead, Earth would continue moving through space in a nearly straight line. Think about throwing a ball around a corner. The ball does not naturally want to turn. Something has to pull it around the corner. The sun's gravity is that pull. Remove the sun. And Earth keeps going. But do not panic yet. You would not suddenly be thrown into space. The Earth's gravity would still be here. You would still stand on the ground. The oceans would still stay on Earth. The atmosphere would still surround the planet. The real problem would be something else. Heat. The sun is the main reason Earth's surface is warm enough for life. Without new sunlight, Earth would slowly begin losing heat into space. But this would not happen instantly. That is important. The oceans and atmosphere store a huge amount of heat. So during the first few hours, most people would still be alive and relatively comfortable indoors. The temperature would begin falling. But Earth would not instantly turn into a giant frozen ball. And this is where things get interesting. The first major victims would be plants. Plants need sunlight to perform photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is the process plants use to turn sunlight, water, and carbon dioxide into food. Without sunlight, that process would stop. Trees would not instantly die. Neither would grass. Neither would crops. Plants have stored energy and can survive without sunlight for some time. But if the darkness continued, they would begin to suffer. And that would create a much bigger problem. Food. Think about everything you eat. Rice. Corn. Wheat. Fruits. Vegetables. And even meat. Almost all of it depends on plants somewhere in the food chain. Animals eat plants. Other animals eat those animals. Humans eat both. So if the sun disappeared for only 24 hours, the food system would not collapse immediately. But if the sun stayed gone, the problem would become enormous. Now let's go back to our original question. What if the sun disappeared for only 24 hours? After one day, Earth would be colder. But it would not be frozen solid. The oceans would still be holding plenty of heat. The atmosphere would still be warm compared with the freezing emptiness of space. And most humans would probably survive that first day if they had shelter, food, water, and electricity. But there is another problem. Weather. Our planet's weather system gets a huge amount of its energy from the sun. The sun heats different parts of Earth at different rates. That creates temperature differences. Those differences help drive winds, clouds, storms, and many other parts of our weather. Remove the sun, and the system begins changing. At first, it might look like the strangest night Earth has ever seen. But slowly, the planet would become colder and colder. Now imagine the sun does not come back after 24 hours. One day becomes 2. 2 days become 1 week. And 1 week becomes 1 month. Now things become much more serious. The temperature would continue falling. Snow and ice would spread into places that normally never see them. Plants would begin dying in large numbers. Animals would struggle to find food. People would start using huge amounts of energy just to stay warm. Countries would probably focus on protecting electricity, food, fuel, and underground shelters. But even human technology has limits. We can create heat. We can create artificial light. We can grow some food indoors. But we cannot replace the enormous amount of energy Earth receives from the sun. And then something incredible would happen. The surface of the oceans would begin freezing. But the entire ocean would not instantly become a giant block of ice. The ice on top would act like a blanket. It would slow the loss of heat from the water underneath. Deep below the surface, liquid water could remain for a very long time. And that could become extremely important. Because Earth has another source of heat. It is called geothermal heat. Deep inside our planet, there is still enormous amounts of heat left over from Earth's formation and radioactive processes. That heat escapes slowly through the ground. Without the sun, geothermal energy could become one of the most important sources of warmth on Earth. And there is an even stranger possibility. Life could survive deep underground and beneath the frozen oceans. Some organisms do not depend directly on sunlight. They live around places where chemical energy comes from inside Earth. These creatures could continue living even while the surface becomes dark and frozen. So the disappearance of the sun would not necessarily mean every living thing dies immediately. Life is much tougher than we often imagine. But now comes the truly terrifying part. The sun is not just important for Earth. It is the reason Earth exists in its current place in the solar system. Without the sun, Earth would become a wandering planet. It would travel through the darkness of space. No sunrise. No sunset. No summer. No winter. No warm beaches. No bright blue sky. Just a frozen world moving through the galaxy. And yet, if the sun returned after exactly 24 hours, the story would be very different. The darkness would end. Sunlight would take about 8 minutes and 20 seconds to reach Earth again. Then the sky would slowly brighten. Plants would begin receiving sunlight again. The temperature would eventually recover. And life would have survived a terrifying day. But there is one final twist. The chances of the sun simply disappearing for 24 hours and then coming back are basically zero. Stars do not normally behave like that. The sun is a massive nuclear furnace that has been shining for billions of years. It is expected to continue shining for billions more. So you probably do not need to worry about waking up tomorrow and finding the sun missing. But this thought experiment teaches us something incredible. Every morning when sunlight enters your room, every time you see a blue sky, every time a plant grows, every time you feel warmth on your skin, you are experiencing energy that traveled across space from a star more than 149 million kilometers away. And that star is the reason our planet is not a frozen, dark world. So the next time you complain that the sun is too hot, remember this. Without it, Earth would not be the Earth we know. It would be a dark world. A cold world. A world traveling silently through space. And somewhere in that darkness, the last traces of sunlight would be nothing more than a memory. Because the sun is not just something we see in the sky. It is the reason we are here.